Good morning, guys. So nice early start this morning, and you join me in part, what we're on, 4? Yeah, part 4 of the GS500 Cafe Racer project. So I'm basically going to pick up in this episode where I left off in the last one with these bits sprayed. And this morning I'm going to get the disc outside. I'm going to give that a coat of lacquer, and then I think I'm going to start looking at the rear brake, which is down here. This is not looking good. There's no fluid in it at all. When I picked the bike up, it wasn't plumbed in. So, and that rear brake lever, as you can see, you push it down and it stays where it is. So it's feeling absolutely horrible. So I need to strip that whole master cylinder down, pretty much like I did on the front brake master cylinder in the last episode, and get looking at that, and hopefully get that in a bit of primer as well. So they're the 2 jobs I'm going to start this episode with, and then we'll rummage through this mountain of parts we've got down here and see what we're going to do next. Okay, so we've got the first coat of lacquer on the rear disc outside, just drying off, and here's our master cylinder that we're going to start stripping down. As I said just a minute ago, it hasn't had fluid in it for I don't know how long. And it's looking pretty rough. So my first job is to get the peg off, get the rear brake pedal off, and then I'm going to start stripping down the master cylinder and giving it a good clean up, and try and get that working nicely. I can see that I'm going to have to replace some seals in there. I can't imagine they're looking too good. So my next job is to start stripping this thing apart. Right, guys, so we've got the rear brake assembly apart, and some good news. I thought that this was all seized up, but I'm just trying to do this with my hand. As you can see, there we go, operates absolutely perfect, feels smooth as anything, so that's absolutely brilliant news. It saves me stripping that right down. I'll probably end up replacing that dust seal, but that's not a problem. The reason it was sticking so bad is because all this has just been not cared for whatsoever. As I mentioned in the first video of this series, I think it was, the guy that had this bike before has basically got an aerosol of one colour and just sprayed the whole bike, and it's got in everywhere, and that's probably what's making this not work so well, combined with that amount of rust in there, combined with it's been unloved, and that's why the pedal was sticking. And you can see the state of that just there. But so good news, all I've got to do is clean up these components, and give them a lease of life, and give them a good paint and a prime up. So that's my next stage. I think with the foot pegs I'm going to end up getting some new ones, because they're a bit too bulky. That weighs about as much as me, that foot peg. But things were built to last back in them days. No aluminium in sight on this bike. It's just all steel, and this thing's really heavy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up replacing both the foot pegs, get some nice sort of machined ones, I think. So that's it. Next stage is get this lot cleaned up. Okay, guys, good morning again. It's a couple of days later since the last shot you would have seen, and if my memory is correct, I think I just stripped the rear master cylinder and the brake system down. That's if my brain's functioning properly this morning. I'm sure that is what was last spoke about. So I was talking about what I was going to do with the cleaning up the master cylinder and the rear heel plates and stuff like that, and brackets, and I've done that now. It's all done. So what I was going to do is I was going to do the rear heel plate brackets in black, just to make them look smart again. But I've gone for something a little bit different, which I'll come to in just a second. This is the rear master cylinder. That's all been painted. Well, it's in primer, ready for paint. So that's come up really nice compared to how it was. I've repainted the rear chain adjusters. They're in black. That's how the disc ended up coming out. which I'm pleased with. That's come up nice. What I've also done, I did speak, I'm sure it's this episode, it might have been the last one. This is the the cover for the engine casing, which goes here like that. I've given that a coat of black and it's ready for a mate of mine to do a design on it for me. He did send me over a picture last night of an idea he's got, and the guy's a genius. It's going to look absolutely awesome. And this is the front fork brace. So what would normally happen, that goes across the forks like that, and then you'd have these 4 holes that you see there. You would have the mudguard and mount into that. I did speak a few episodes ago about what I was going to do with the mudguard. I was thinking about chopping one about, and the one that come on the bike, I was going to chop that around and try and make a nice cafe looking mudguard. But I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to scrap a mudguard altogether. I'm not even going to have one on there. Just going to have this brace on there, and the mate of mine who's doing the engine case cover is going to, I spoke to him and he said he'd make time to do a design on this as well for me. So that's had a coat of primer and black as well. So top man for doing that. You're an absolute legend. Okay, so on to the heel plate brackets. And here's what I've come up with. So like I said just a second ago, I was going to paint them black, but what I've done is I've cleaned them up and I've gone for what I'm calling the raw look. So basically I've cleaned it right up and then got a bit of 40 grit sandpaper on the rubbing down block and just rubbed it to give it like a little bit of a machined looking grain, but didn't want it perfect. I didn't want it completely shiny. I want it to have that slightly worn look, or what I'm calling the raw look. And what I've done, these are still obviously, so it will rust. That has had a complete coat of lacquer on it. You're probably not going to pick it up too well. I'll try and get in the light a little bit more for you. So that's how it's come out. That's got an absolute lovely gloss over that now. It looks that worn look, but once the frame and swing arm and everything's powder coated nicely, I just think it's going to make it look a little bit sort of rough and ready. So I'm really pleased with how they've come out actually. So that's the left hand one, that's the right hand one, and that's come out. So moving on to the actual heel plates themselves, which are here. I did do these a few days ago, but for some reason the lacquer reacted. I don't know if it was too hot or too cold or some silicone in it. I just don't know. And it reacted, and I've had to rub the whole thing down and start them again. So rather than take the risk, I've gone and bought a new can of lacquer. Whether it's a bad batch of lacquer, I'm not too sure, but I've got a new batch of lacquer, and I redid them. It just wasn't right, and I wasn't happy with it. You probably couldn't even notice it, but I'm a fussy sod. So basically, this mounts on here like that, and then you've got the heel plate. And what I've done again on this is these were painted a horrible black colour by the guy that had it before, not masked out or cared for. So what I've done is I've masked this area off here and a slight bald around the heel plate, and then on this bit here, which was chrome underneath the crappy paint that the guy had put on, I did the same. Slightly finer sandpaper, give it that grained look, and that's what I've come up with. So that goes on there like that, and that's how they'll look once they're on. So well pleased with them. That took absolutely ages to do that. Good to do both heel plates and both heel plate brackets. Took me about, I'd say about 4 hours, something like that. So that's how they've come out. So happy with that. Absolutely over the moon with that. So guys, that is going to be the end of this episode. We've got all those bits in paint. It's starting to come along now. It's looking good. And it's just a case of getting the frame painted and the swing arm, and doing something with that rear shock, and then we can start slowly putting bits back on the bike. So that's it for that episode, guys. And then in the next episode, we're gonna attack this, the engine. We're gonna start stripping this of paint, and then repriming and repainting this up. So that's it, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Join me in the next episode when we'll attack that engine a bit. Thanks again, guys. Take care. I'll catch you next time.